Hello, my name is William James, I host the Board Book Geek, and we need to talk about this after my experiences last night. Well, let's talk about why you need to stop using tabletop gaming in any form as therapy. Because, yikes. And also, like, subdo the usual, and if you want exclusive content that no one else can see, consider becoming a channel member or joining my Patreon. So let's start the show. Role-playing games like D&D can offer a space for exploring an emotional release, that is true. But they're not designed to replace professional therapists. Their primary purpose is entertainment. And if you are working through your difficult emotions, trauma, and mental health at the table, there is a problem. Last night we had a lot of that. And on the other hand, when no one at that table is trained to deal with it. Not everyone is working through issues, and some people are there just to have fun. There was also a child at the table, my friend's son, and he did not need to hear what was said and what you were doing. It was a very frustrating thing, and he had to leave the game, and the game was paused. Thank God. But it does put a really unfair burden on other players, and it can create a very uncomfortable situation where you feel kind of pressured to act as therapists. And it's not fair to them, nor beneficial to the person who needs the help. And it can create a major imbalance at the table. It's a collaborative game. All the players are supposed to have equal input into the story and experience, and when one person is using the game as a platform for their personal therapy, it can create a weird imbalance, and the focus shifts towards the individual emotional needs rather than the actual game, and every other player ends up feeling sidelined. And you do kind of sit there listening or interacting and thinking, when will this trauma end? Because I can't deal with. Most people are not comfortable with big public displays of emotion. But working through your issues at the table, through your character, who literally has the same backstory as you, and I'm not going to say what the backstory is, because yikes. And I genuinely feel sorry for this person before anyone comes at me. This does not bode well. Escapism is why we are there. We are there to have fun and escape. And when you find yourself dragged into real life issues that you didn't sign up for, you do kind of sit there with a fixed grin on your face. What the hell do I do? And it's emotionally draining for other players. Not everyone has the capability or desire to deal with someone's emotional trauma in a game session. Many people, including myself, use D&D as an escape from stress and everything that's happening around me. I keep my life off the table. And when one player turns the game into a form of personal therapy, it's exhausting. Especially if you are not prepared to deal with the situation, or topics that other people may find very uncomfortable, or are not necessarily age appropriate. This was not age appropriate in any way, shape, or form. And it can blur boundaries between reality and fiction. In D&D, players immerse themselves in a fictional world where you can explore different facets of themselves in a fun environment. However, when the game is used as therapy, these boundaries become very blurry. We all have our, let's be honest, we all have our self-insert my mortal character in our heads that we wish we could play just for the hell of it sometimes. And I mean, these lines become really blurry, and players may begin to take in-game actions and decisions personally, or project their real-world emotions into characters in a way that definitely affects the group dynamic. The blurred lines can create a lot of tension and misunderstandings, and people being upset, and people having arguments, and people. It basically killed the game. And when you know a lot of the people in the space, it can be uncomfortable. It makes it difficult for players to separate the fun and the freedom of the game from real life conflicts. When the player conflates the character's experience with their own emotional issues, it can be a very unhealthy dynamic, and it can be the game itself becomes a real life source of stress. And again, I'm genuinely sorry that this event happened to this person. I'm not judging this person, but there needs to be a line between real life and the game. And I think we all would have the right to be a bit of an emotional mess when dealing with that stuff. But there are ways of dealing with it that don't necessarily involve putting it on the tabletop and making it your character arc. And it can dominate the game, and when you have that one player that's dominating the game with their personal struggles and trauma, it can make others feel as if their enjoyment is secondary. It definitely feelings of frustration. And after last night, yeah, it was bad. The group may have major boundaries as well that don't want to talk about that stuff. Don't want to hear this, and especially when there is a 13-year-old boy at the table. And I'm so sorry he got the start of it, and it was like, okay, you're going to bed now, but we'll do it. Come back later. Yeah. And it can disrupt the flow, and D&D is a game that thrives on working together and imagination and a shared sense of experience. Any tabletop game does. D&D, Vampire the Masquerade, and everything in the middle. There's hundreds, if not thousands of them, and there they are. That's how it works. Heavy real-world topics can destroy the fantasy escapism that players seek. And for some unknown reason, we live in an age where escapism is deemed problematic. For some reason, you must always have No, we must not always have real-world issues buzzing in our brain. No. And you do end up feeling like, how do you handle this situation? It can stall gameplay, it leads to awkwardness and cause a session to veer off. It can be challenging to balance the need of one players against the group expectations of the group. And really, it was so uncomfortable. It was, again, I'm sorry, but it didn't need to be on the table at that point. So, it's important to remember that D&D is a group activity and everyone's enjoyment matters. One person's behaviour distracts from the group experience. It can lead to very awkward, uncomfortable situations and a few crosswords. Now, okay, I'm going to be really real here. I deal with depression. I have a mental illness. I deal with depression. Happy pills help. But joking aside, I want to give, and I know this is not an option for everyone, but I want to just say this. Seek professional help. If you're dealing with serious emotions or mental health issues, consult someone. Be a Karen. Get on your GP's back. Scream at them if needs be. Do it. I had to. Because, yikes. Join a therapeutic RPG group. There are therapeutic RPG groups out in the world, and a lot of them are run by people who are professionals, if not all of them, and they do exist. There's not many, but they do exist. These groups, I've been told, are fantastic. I know someone that has used one for their issues, and actually they were playing Vampire the Masquerade, so win-win, right? Communication with your group Okay. This is a bit more of a personal one. And I'm going to put this out there. If you have issues, if you are dealing with anything, please communicate with the group or the DM and talk to them first and listen to the rules set out. If you can't separate those from what you're doing here, maybe the game isn't for you. I'm not saying quit the game, I'm saying maybe that session isn't for you. And just a side note, the reason I put that t-shirt on in the thumbnail is that is literally what someone told me once. So that's fun. And it can be a great space, it can be a fun space, but please keep those boundaries separate, especially if you know there are going to be children at the table, and writing all of that experiences into your backstory so you can go on a man unaliving spree and just try to derail the game is a problem. That is a problem. Stop using D&D as therapy. Stop it. I know these are harsh words, but I'm being real here. So, I will leave this video here. I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, but I don't care. It needed to be said. Like, sub, do the usual, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.